Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the 20th edition of Listen Up Illinois, coming here to you from beautiful downtown Urbana, Illinois on UPTV. Today, I'm pleased to have as my guest Ron Cannon, and he's being accompanied by Michael Shapiro. Ron has been a musician here in town for many years, formerly played with a group called Big Daddy Son and the Outer Planets. And today he's going to be doing some original material on the guitar. So welcome, Ron. It's good to have you here. So did that first tune, it sounded like it had a little Irish influence, maybe?
You're talking about playing here for a long time. I think I wrote this started to write this in about 1972 or so. And Michael and I first started playing together maybe in 74 or 5 or something like that, a little bit.
It's a long time ago, I can't remember.
Right. It's evolved over the years. The original part was that major section in the front where, you know, just a real stereotypical kind of an Irish kind of thing, and then eventually went to the minor thing. And
so it's been evolving over 30-some years, huh?
Exactly.
So when you write a composition like that, what's kind of going through your mind, or what kind of inspiration gets you started on that?
A lot of times I'm just trying to challenge myself to do something within a certain kind of a mode, or you know, technical kinds of things. Just, you know, push myself as a guitarist, and so I write a lot of different kinds of styles of music, just because I do want to push myself, you know, as a guitar player and a composer.
Looking for challenges and things that will kind of get your
This
blood
is always,
going.
we were talking about Big Daddy Son and all that. I made my living playing, you know, rockabilly music, but I was always doing all this kind of stuff too. You know, and I've, you know, decided now to focus on that. Try to, you know, one of my goals with working with Michael is to try to get a completely acoustic, you know, instrumental album put together. So we're about halfway in there, I think. For having a whole album's worth of stuff.
So is that Music for Moderns? Is that the...
That's the title I gave it. My plan was to have Music for Moderns Volume 1, which would be to do these things as instrumentals, you know, with the 2 acoustics, you know, maybe even some solo stuff for me, but then do the exact same tunes with like a full orchestration kind of thing.
Oh, for Volume
jazz
2?
Fusion, adding, you know, whatever each piece, you know, instrumentation each piece could use. You know.
So what kind, I mean, do you have a vision for that? Do you have a vision for that as to what kind of instrumentation?
Sure. I mean, a lot of these pieces I'm adapting to the acoustic thing because, you know, some of the stuff that we're doing, you know, originally intended to be more of something for an ensemble, you know, with bass and putting in, you know, percussion and all that.
Percussion, violin or something, or maybe?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a violinist daughter who's trying to get a violinist for. I'll get another plug-in for Duke of Uke and his novelty orchestra.
Yeah.
My daughter Claire is the violinist.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and you got some more tunes, so go ahead and do those. This is all going to be on Tunes for Moderns, Volume 1, these tunes that you're doing now. Music for Moderns, yeah.
Gibson?
That was kind of a gypsy, that had kind of a gypsy feel to it.
Gypsum. I do a lot of carpentry work, so I kind of combined gypsy and
The gypsy music and the gypsum, yeah.
Let's do the rhinoceros at the door.
Some rock influences in there, jazz.
Used to be a big John McLaughlin kind of fan. Not doing fast runs in there on that one yet. Yes, so it's more fusion jazz piece.
Uh,
Yeah. And I think we never did play that one 30 years ago.
That's new.
Yeah. Do you?
All of them are new to me because I can't remember.
Yeah,
from 30 years.
yeah.
Which we do next?
There's one more, right?
Just one more? Okay. Less is more. Let's go to less is more or less.
That's the name of the tune?
Yep.
Oh, that's not that you have more or less to do, but
Considering calling ourselves Occam's Razor, so this song
Occam.
almost fits into that theme.
Occam's razors?
Occam's Razor, which is it's referred to like developing in scientific theories or whatever. The simplest explanation is always the best.
Yeah.
Whatever data you're looking at. So this is less is more or less.
Less is more. Yeah.
More or less.
More or less. So when you two are working these tunes out, what kind of thoughts are you putting into the arrangements? Are you kind of bounce back and forth on what you're doing, or?
I mean, we're really
How
just, the first piece that we did, has a real high degree of improvisation in it. But that piece, the only thing, that one long run that I did, that's the only improvised section of that whole song. For me, Michael, I think, is doing different things every time, but that's pretty much, completely composed piece, on my part, except for that one section.
Yeah, so are you kind of changing it up every time, Michael, or?
Somewhat. As I've gotten familiar with the tunes, there's structures to the things. There's different sections and things that kind of Ron wants. He wants it chaotic or gentle or something like that. And so generally I'm trying to hear stuff that's in it. And I tend to be chordal based, so I try to put little splashes of chord or something like that.
Complement each other so well.
So do you give direction since it's your tune? Do you?
Very little, when we first started out, it was like, here's, I kind of presented the piece to him, and then, and I would say this is kind of what I have in mind for this section, but I wouldn't like teach him any parts or or do anything like that, So.
So they just kind of develop on they have their life of their own.
Yes.
In a sense. Yeah.
But as we do them more and more, there's less variation. There's some, flexibility and timing and where we do this stuff. Sometimes the parts are sort of now kind of settling in.
Yeah. They're developing, and they'll settle in somewhere then.
I mean, there's some more pieces that I've introduced to him that they're a little more chaotic, a little more McLaughlin-esque maybe.
My mind is resisting finding stuff.
So I guess we can give if people want to find out more about Ron Cannon, they can go to www.roncannon.com, RONCANNON.com.
Always up to date, but there's some stuff that you can buy CDs from my last band from about 8 or 9 years ago, the Sharecroppers, which was more of a country band.
Okay.
That's the only product I actually have on there right now.
Yeah.
Daddy's Son stuff was reissued on CD, but it was on Pravda Records, and that leasing deal was run out, and I haven't done a new pressing. I think I need to do that.
Yeah.
It goes
Okay.
out.
Well, I guess we're going to switch out now. Is that Michael's going to take off, and Ron's going to do some solo stuff here in a minute.
I know, I know, I know, I know. I'm.
Well,
Edit that one out. Here we go. I know, I know, I know, I know. I know, I know, I know, I know. I know when to cross that line, now there's gonna have to be some crying. I know I've done no wrong. Little darling, you gave everything to me, but your love was more than I could see. Now I'm sitting here alone in my misery. I know, I know, I know, I know. I know, I know, I know, I know. No one crossed that line. Now they're gonna have to be some crying. I know I've done no wrong.
everything is said and done, there's that front door. Little darling, you gave everything to me, but your love was more than I could see. And now I'm sitting here alone in my misery, and I know, 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 I know when I cross that line, now there's gonna have to be some crying. I know I done you wrong. I know, I done you wrong.
Hey, so that is rockabilly. Is that?
Oh, that's more of a, I think, a more straight country kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
that's not really very rockabilly-ish.
Yeah, where does
So
rockabilly?
we might have a little more rockabilly elements than a real standard kind of country.
So where does rockabilly get separated from country?
It's a pretty vague one. I mean, you know, the real stereotypical kind of rockabilly, you know, has probably a little more blues influence, you know, just, you know. I mean, I could give you some examples or whatever, but do you want something like that?
Yeah, let's hear something. Let's hear something rockabilly.
I mean, one of my favorite rockabilly writers is Carl Perkins, who, you know, most famous song is Blue Suede Shoes, and was part of the Sun Records, you know, $1 Million Quartet with Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, and God who's the fourth? Johnny Cash.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, Johnny Cash, some of his early stuff is real rockabilly, but it's really more, you know, he's more on the countryside. Elvis Presley's Sun Sessions is kind of your stereotypical, you know, rockabilly stuff where you've got, you know, the electric guitar and stand-up slap bass kind of thing going.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll do a Carl Perkins song. A simple one.
Well, I'm sitting here wondering if a matchbox will hold my clothes. Yeah, I'm sitting here wondering if a matchbox will hold my clothes. Ain't I got no matches, but I got a long way to go. Yeah, I'm an old poor boy, a long way from home. Yeah, I'm an old poor boy, a long way from home. I guess I'll never be happy if everything I do is wrong. Yeah, a matchbox, 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 a matchbox. Ain't I got no matches, but I got a long way to go. A matchbox, 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 a matchbox. Matches, but I got a long way to go.
That's kind of an abbreviated version of what it is.
Yeah.
When you hear it's kind of a Chuck Berry influence, you
Yeah.
know, and it's more, you know, the blues-based kind of progressions and it's a dance beat, more dance.
Yeah.
Well, country's
Yeah.
is good dance music too, but
Yeah.
in a different way.
I think on the one of the descriptions I read on your website of Big Daddy's Son, you said something in there about some kind of punk, some rockabilly influence on punk, or
Sure.
I don't know what you meant by that, or
Well, they were all, first off, I was born in Mississippi, and, mostly grew up in Chicago, but a very strong influence on me with that whole Southern culture thing. And I remember having friends of our family that were, one of them's nickname was Punk. I think that that was always, I'm not sure where the roots of that word come from, actually, what exactly punk is, but I mean, there were groups that literally, thematically, I don't know if you know Johnny Burnett, the Rock and Roll Trio. Do you know that band? Or
I don't know if I've heard them.
Aerosmith covered some of their tunes. Early Fleetwood Mac, they did did some references to Johnny Burnett. But in 1955 and '56, it was just it was actually it was a trio of musicians, and then Johnny Burnett singing. Over the trio, and it was just an electrified Telecaster guitar, cranked to 11.
Really distorted.
And doing, what you would call rockabilly, but pretty wild, and their whole marketing thing was this whole wild, the wild rockabilly cats or whatever, and even like Gene Vincent, who was. Johnny Burnett, did all this wild rockabilly stuff, and that's one of the things about that whole genre is that you see, it never really caught on big mainstream, with the marketplace. But you've heard of Johnny Burnett because when he finally gave up doing the wild stuff, he did "You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine." When they started doing the ballads, and they started making money.
Yeah.
So they all kind of, in their youth were doing all this kind of wild stuff.
They were too far ahead of their time or something at that time.
The trio really was, they kind of were doing
too wild
very
for the
straight
50s.
rock and roll, Well, here's I'll do the opening riff to one. And that's how it opens up with imagine a distorted Telecaster through like a little Fender Champ cranked all the way, and it's just distorted guitars. And the rest of the song is just a riff on the minor chords.
On the Telecaster,
just screaming over the top, "Lonesome Train!"
So how did you come to get interested in rockabilly music?
Because of my Southern roots, I was, in high school, influenced by the Beatles and, all that kind of pop stuff, which, was a huge influence on me, and then discovered, the fusion stuff, and, kind of explored that for a while, certainly as a listener, and I never really, had a fusion group, but I pushed myself, as a guitarist. I worked really hard, like finger exercises and scale and all that kind of stuff, and enough theory to kind of get into that. But then, in the late '70s, it started to rockabilly stuff started to surface, and it just kind of connected with that early psychological roots, of the Southern culture kind of thing for me, I guess, and it was, my grandfather was a musician and played, I remember him doing kind of Delta blues kind of stuff, he died when I was fairly young, so, I just have real vague memories, and I didn't live in the same town. I mean, we lived in Chicago, and he was down in Mississippi, so we'd see him 2 or 3 times a year maybe, and so those influences, all that, just the whole Southern thing, and then the rockabilly really fused, a lot of things. There's a lot of gospel influence in it.
Yeah.
And then there's the Black Delta, music, black and white, with the gospel, and then just, plain country hill music, the stand-up bass, the slap bass of rockabilly comes from bluegrass, it's just, it's the bass is the rhythm instrument of the rhythm section.
Right.
The first, Elvis's first recordings don't have drums, necessarily, and a lot of Johnny Cash stuff didn't have drums, and You know, that was kind of a later development of it, but then the bass carried that whole rhythm thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so they had some traditional roots in there in rockabilly, I
It was
guess.
just
but-
Memphis, it was,
Yeah.
you couldn't help but, you know, be influenced by all that stuff, you know, if you were in that area, Beale Street, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Well, yeah.
American music. It's really the, you know, the big fusion. You know, there's the jazz and blues influences and the, you know, the hill country music, you know, all coming together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to, you know, Elvis's first single, "That's All Right, Mama," you know, if you put it in a different context, it's really, you know, it's a gospel song. Well, that's all right now, Mama. You know,
Yeah.
it's got that wailing, you know, kind
Right.
of appeal, you know, of gospel music. So it's interesting
Yeah. Yeah.
to think about that stuff. You know, with the Outer Planets, so, you know, we had modern influences too. You know, I mean, we did, you know, we weren't a purist kind of rockabilly band. We had,
Right.
you know, some of the later rock influences and, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing too.
So what's something the Big Daddy Son and the Outer Planets did?
Boy, I mean, it's hard, you know, trying to do this stuff. We were talking about, you know, adapting the instrumentals that Michael and I are doing from, you know, to try to adapt rockabilly to an acoustic thing is, you know, I mean, you really need an electric guitar with some echo on it, and, you know, to really get the right kind of a sense of what rockabilly is all about. I mean, we did a lot of originals, but we had a lot of R&B influenced things, and we you know, during a lot of our time, we had a saxophone in the band, and
Okay.
some of the last recordings that we did in the mid '80s were. Well, we were honored to have Ron Dewar do a bunch of saxophone work for us. I don't know if you remember Ron Dewar from here in town, the saxophone player.
No, that was before I came to town, I think.
A great saxophonist, and there's some MP3s on the website where you can hear Ron playing with us. So we got into a little more jazzy kind of stuff, but still had that, you know, hep cat kind of feel to it, I guess you would have to call it. I mean, like I said, it would be hard for me to try to do anything here, you know, just as a solo
Right.
of an acoustic guitar. Other than, I mean, you know, that kind of, the more primitive kind of, you know, rockabilly.
Okay. Well, you got something else in another vein then? or-
Well, you know, I started out in this town playing at the Red Herring Coffee House as kind of a singer-songwriter, you know, and I'm kind of moving back in that direction these days too, just, you know,
Mhm.
just following, you know, where my
So you-
psyche is calling me. So, I mean, I've got kind of a new, you know, song I can do in that. kind
Okay,
of vein.
that sounds good.
Now when I'm walking, putting my feet right down on the cold, hard ground, ain't nobody gonna turn me around. And when I'm talking to all the gods I know, don't need no gospel story, just which way the wind's gonna blow. Ain't no narrow-minded preacher gonna drive me out of my natural mind. If I could feel my fate, I guess that'll seal my fate. Then I'll just peel my fate away. doing a little thinking too about all the ghosts in my life and how I turned out to be such a fool. Oh, the dreams of a young man, they just came and faded away. But if I could feel my fate, guess that'll seal my fate. Then I'll just peel my fate away. Now when I'm walking, I'm putting my feet right down on the cold, hard ground.
Nice. I didn't realize you wrote your own vocal songs. So
Sure. You know, a lot of the our plant stuff was all, you know, working too.
Yeah. So the Red Herring's still going, I guess,
Sure.
right? Is that
Yeah.
there's still things going on there at the Red Herring?
You know, it's open every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and there's something going on Fridays and Saturdays, and then Sundays as an open mic, an open stage, actually. You know, encourage people if they want to do poetry or theater or anything they want to do.
So the open stage is Sunday nights. What time?
Start at 7:30. Usually runs till about 11 or so, but it depends, you know, how many people, you know, what they want to do.
Yep. And
Saturdays it's usually like 8 to 1 or so.
they have various
There's usually scheduled music
scheduled
then,
music.
but not always, and you know, but it's always, you know, it's always open.
And there's food there.
There is food. There's always some soup or chili. You know, on the weekends we have the restaurant during the week, but then you know, there is snacks and you know, trying to have baked goods and that kind of thing on a regular basis. And our own brand of coffee, Red Herring Coffee. Just I'm on the board of directors at Channing Murray, so
yeah.
we you know, kind of gotten back involved on a volunteer
Yeah.
basis.
Well, it's good that it's still going. I mean, it's a nice gathering place for people.
I think it's the best place in town to hear any kind of acoustic music. Absolutely.
Yeah.
People, I think, is undiscovered as yet because for that reason, but for that purpose,
Yeah.
unrediscovered. Undiscovered many
Was this-
times
yeah.
over the last
Oh.
decades. We just had our 40th anniversary. We had a huge reunion.
Yeah, I think that was last year. Was that last year? Yeah.
Boy,
I was there
it's
for part
coming
of
up
that.
on 2 years. It's hard to believe. It was 67 is when it started. So it was 2007. We had to.
Yeah, I was there for part of that. Yeah.
I was shocked at how many people from the original first generation, which I was kind of the second or third generation in there when I first got involved. But came from all over the country, and it was a great weekend.
Yeah, I enjoyed the parts of it that I was there for. So. Well, you have another song for us, or?
Could we close it out with something?
Yeah, you want to close it out? Let me. I'll thank Ron Cannon for being here. His website's www.roncannon.com if you want to learn more about what he does. I really appreciate him coming in and playing for us this afternoon here on Listen Up, Illinois. So, Ron, you want to take us out with a song here or a tune?
I'll have to think. What should I do? Should I do another country song? This is a sharecropper song.
All of my life I've been running around, spend all my time on that high side of town. I go to all them honky-tonks, acting like a clown, living on that high side of town. And it don't really matter where I go, everybody knows my name. If I get there, won't be a feeling any pain, living on that high side of town. So won't you come with me, have a drink or two, find ourselves a cozy spot, pull up and cool. We hit a jump, honky tonk, that was a lot of fun. Living on that high side of town, and it won't really matter where we go, it'll all turn out the same. So if you care to join me, there won't be any shame. Living on that high side of town, we'll drink and smoke, visit some folks and gossip all night long. Before we're through, we might even sing a song. All of my life I've been running around, spend all my time on that high side down. I go to home, honky tonks, acting like a clown, living on that high side of town. We'll drink and smoke, visit some folks and gossip all day long. Well, thanks a few before we're through, might even sing a song. All of my life I've been running around, I spend all my time on that high side of town. I go to all them honky tonks, acting like a clown, living on that